As the economy begins to reopen, some restaurants seem to be having a hard time finding workers. You may have seen some signs, for example, like this. Okay, due to the stimulus money and tax time, people don't want to work. They're doing their best, but nobody wants to work. Oh my God. Here's another one. We're short shaft. We are short staffed. Please be patient with the staff that did show up. Nobody wants to work. Oh my God, nobody wants to work anymore. They're lazy. The government giving out too many benefits. This is what people like Republican Representative David Rouser are saying. Here's what he tweeted. This is what happens when you extend unemployment benefits too long and add a $1,400 stimulus payment. Right when employers need workers to fully open back up, few can be found. And of course, you have Republicans, Lindsey Graham and Rick Scott. They were saying this about the unemployment benefits. Democrats are going to make the next 4 months impossible for small businesses to hire. This bill creates an incentive for people to be unemployed for the next 4 months. Senator Ben Sassy Ben Sassy, says the benefits would, quote, knock this nation still harder in the coming months by unintentionally increasing unemployment. So from that, you might think, oh my God, they're right. Are they? Are they right? Oh my God, we're giving out too many benefits. No. No, they're absolutely wrong. See, here's the thing. A few weeks even after the initial lockdowns, we didn't actually lock down. There wasn't a full lockdown. Restaurants were still open. Businesses started actually recalling workers, even after a couple of weeks. Okay. And as a result, you had millions of people that returned to those jobs despite the extra benefits, and the jobless rate, right, decided to go back down. Now, it turns out that those extra benefits didn't actually stop anybody from going back to work. So, sorry, it was. But okay, the question then is, why aren't people going back to work? Well, I've got some ideas. For one, we don't pay people enough. We've never paid people enough to go back to work. And now you add in a pandemic, and people who don't have health care, health insurance through work, of course they're not going to want to go back. And so the traditional reasoning, that the whole economics 101 argument for this is, hey, for pay is, look, if the demand for workers exceeded supply, then you'd have an increase in prices. But that hasn't happened. You don't actually have an increase in prices at all. And that is despite anecdotes from people like Chef Gruel. Apparently, he owns the Slapfish restaurant franchise. And he took to Twitter last week to say this: there are no employees available in California. We're offering $21 an hour. They're making too much on unemployment, and they'd rather not work. Again, not true. William Spriggs, chief economist at the AFL-CIO Labor Federation, points out that normal hiring networks that employers actually rely on were blown up during the pandemic. Some employers who received forgivable government loans were also able to keep their workers on payroll, but a lot of them let people go during the lockdown. A year later, guess what happened to those workers? They weren't sitting there eagerly waiting for their jobs to come back, like, oh man, well, I can't wait to go back to the restaurant that pays me like crap. No, they moved on. They went and got different jobs. Some of them died as a result of the coronavirus, or they just moved on, changed career fields. And so, as far as those networks are concerned, Spriggs said this: they tend to recruit using these networks friends and relatives of people that they already have hired. And the problem when we decided we would handle this by separating people from their employer is that we ended up breaking up those networks. So it's not as if people aren't looking for work. They are looking for work, but they're either choosing to go someplace else, or they died, or other things. Or they've decided not to work for such low, terrible wages, or they can't return to work because they don't have anybody to watch after their kids. And so Spriggs added, employers may be reluctant to pay the market clearing wage, pay necessary to attract workers to all the available work, especially at a time when many jobs have become more difficult and stressful as a result of the pandemic. Then they get shocked when they try to expand and find out, I actually have to raise my wages. Oh my God. Oh no, I have to actually pay workers more. Oh dear God, no. Why? here's the thing. If people are making more off unemployment than, a wealthy company is willing to pay, then maybe it's the company that's the problem and not the unemployment benefits. Because again, if you add the $1,400 stimulus and the $300 temporary boost to unemployment, that's barely more than minimum wage. In fact, the $1,400 stimulus was based off minimum wage. And so you're not giving people very much money. And with the risk of the virus, hordes of rude, angry customers, anti-maskers, the difficulties of the jobs themselves, it's just not worth it. It's not worth it to go back to these. And so, in fact, a February study from researchers at the University of California, San Francisco, found that the line cooks actually had the highest mortality rate during the height of the pandemic in the U.S. Line cooks, people going out there and cooking your meals. Now, we tend to think of the people who die the most as, elderly people in care homes. No, it turns out the people that are making our meals are the ones that are dying the most of COVID-19. So, and it's not just food preparation, it's also places like slaughterhouses that are rampant for the virus. And also, when cities were under lockdown, a lot of restaurants were still open for takeout and delivery, meaning that these people, of course, these workers were still having to work under these conditions. In a lot of cases where employers did not want to actually spend the money to protect their workers. And so their risks have increased, but their pay has not. Even the so-called heroes pay that was really, really short-lived wasn't all that much. In fact, you had one former line cook, Isaac Furman. He talked to Ear about this, and he said of the reasons that he had left the industry, because this is a person who explained themselves like, yeah, I thought I was going to be a lifer in this industry. This is what I was doing. I was a line cook, and that's what I was going to do with my life. And then realized once he had left as a result of the pandemic, well, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. Quote, healthcare is a big part of this. The total lack of ability to raise a family while working on the line is too, but there's also the physical toll. I had a foot injury once and couldn't work for a week. What happens if it was longer than that? There's absolutely no safety net, and every day you feel worse and worse. He also described the industry as it is, as, quote, unsustainable and exploitative. True. Especially in places like with a high cost of living, like New York City, as some of you mentioned. When you have the average rent somewhere around $1,000 in some of these places for a one bedroom apartment, and you're only making $9-10 an hour, what's the point? What's the point? And so the other factors, as some of you have mentioned as well, lack of childcare. You have families, you have people with families, with children. The schools aren't open yet. Now the conservative solution is, well, let's just open the schools and get all the kids sick. Who cares? Those kids will bring back the illnesses to everybody else, and grandma. No, who cares about that? Let's just open the schools, send the kids back, so that we can send the adults back to work and pay them like shit, essentially. I think that's the wrong way to go. I think what we need is universal child care. That'd be great. I think we're one of the only countries that doesn't actually do that. But here's the thing. Again, it's not the reason that childcare is needed for people who are working in fast food. The average age of a fast food worker isn't teenaged. It's 27 years old. And look, even if it were teenagers, right? Are you saying that because they're a teenager, they also don't deserve the dignity of work, of getting paid fairly for fair work? Yeah. So anyway, basically what they want altogether, and I don't think it's too much to ask, they want safety, fair pay, and to be able to have things like benefits like healthcare and childcare, and they want to be treated like people. That's it. In fact, here's what one worker named Anna put it. Quote, we are so sick and tired of restaurant owners assuming that we want a handout. We want to work, but we also want to be treated like human beings. We haven't been for way too long. It's true. So look, I know there's this big focus on getting back to normal. Normal is not good. We need to get things back to, or not back, but we need to get things to a place where it's better for workers. Labor needs to demand better. Labor needs to get better. Fair wages for fair work, good benefits, and respect. Because, look, honestly, if you don't do these things, then what was the whole point of calling them essential, these workers? Is it just a lie? Tends to look like it. Well, you know what? If they are as essential as the American people believe that they're, or said that they were, then they would have these things. And it's very clear that they're not. They're getting the shaft, and things absolutely need to change. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.